I like change. I've told you before, I didn't grow up in a traditional kind of family. And traditional, go to church on Sunday, dinner on this day, go to this camp every summer. So I'm all for, over the course of my career, I've changed directions, changed jobs, changed bosses several times. I'm good with it. But I get a lot of people aren't. When LeBron James decided to come to Los Angeles, much like when Michael Jordan decided to go to the Wizards, it was not the best basketball move. We knew it wasn't the best basketball move. He could have gone to Philadelphia. Instead, he went to Los Angeles. Well, Jeannie and Jim Buss, the owners, didn't get along. The front office was unsettled. It's since been, torn apart and rebuilt, and the roster wasn't very good. The Lakers were a bad team. Owner, front office, roster, 4 years before he got here. And Philadelphia, here's the starting five he could have inherited in Philadelphia. That's a championship team potentially. LeBron, Joel Embiid, Dario Saric, J.J. Redick, and Ben Simmons. That's a lot of good players. I got news for you. That's beating Boston, and that's beating Milwaukee. The third best player on that team is probably Ben Simmons. The second best player on Milwaukee is Chris Middleton. So that team is getting to the NBA Finals. Win it? Not sure. Get to the Finals. But LeBron chose business over basketball. And I support him because LeBron had achieved so much. 99% of you are never going to allow him to be MJ. So he finishes second greatest all time. And the business stuff in L.A. has gone through the ceiling. It's been better than I thought. I'm told by people close to LeBron, he loves L.A. His kids love L.A. His family loves L.A. The billionaires have lined up to support LeBron. His net worth is now $750 million. He's close to being a billionaire, and the businesses are unbelievable. And, his legacy has been formed. He's first or second best basketball player ever, so I support him. But this morning and yesterday, when I see the story that Rondo is hurt, he's not winning a title. The Clippers in the same building are healthy, rested, and go 9 to 10 deep. So now Avery Bradley's not around. He's a starter. And Rondo's not around. He's a real high IQ rotational playoff guy. This is not a championship team. And LeBron deep down knows it. Last 2 years, basically it's been LeBron, Anthony Davis, and just a bunch of stuff. And this is the downside. This is why I think Kevin Durant, who doesn't have Michael Jordan's legacy yet, he doesn't have LeBron's legacy, is making a mistake choosing Brooklyn. You're not choosing Brooklyn for basketball. You may be choosing it for happiness. You're not choosing it for basketball. Less of a coach, less of a point guard, less of a roster, less stability, less winning, less of a culture. You're not choosing Brooklyn for basketball. You're choosing it for other stuff. So it's a little bit of a cautionary tale. But in the course of Michael Jordan, I got it. He was the best player ever. He was exhausted. You watched the documentary. It's like every championship was just... Michael was the best player in the world, and he was being tackled for years. And I totally support LeBron, and I totally get it with LeBron. He's number one or number two all time, depending on how your worldview of basketball. He's not fallen to 3, and for the 2s, he's not going to 1. He chose business. This is the downside of choosing business. Tom Brady chose the Buccaneers. He chose it for football. Look at the roster. Go look at how Vegas changed Tampa Bay with Tom's arrival. Like, Tom chose it for football. Receivers, tight ends, coach. Peyton Manning chose Denver. They had Hall of Fame corners, great pass rushers, very good receivers. Peyton Manning went football. And maybe basketball and football cultures, they are different. Basketball players make so much money off the court with shoes. Once you get a few titles, what do you care? Let's go do the business thing. It's fun. But this morning, no Avery Bradley, no Rondo. Clippers go 9 deep, totally healthy. Paul George saying this is the best I've felt in years. The championship stuff is over. When you choose business over basketball, you need a bunch of breaks to win in basketball. And the West is so good. The point guards are so unbelievable in the West. And now you lost your 2 best defensive guards, Rondo and Avery Bradley. I like Alex Caruso. Come on. He's never proven anything in the postseason. KCP's talented. I don't trust him in the postseason. Again, Caruso and KCP are nice. Bradley, Rondo, I've seen be great when it matters. The downside to choosing business over basketball, I don't think LeBron's losing any sleep, but what you're seeing with the Lakers, you're witnessing it. Doug Gottlieb joining me now, brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing, Cowherd Global Satellite Network. And I don't think Rondo's close to what he was. I don't, Doug. But he's a rotational player. He's something to me. And now I'm like, okay, no Avery Bradley. No Rondo. And I'm like, okay, now it's more on Alex Caruso. Like, it feels like a real issue for me, right?
There's no question this is a real issue for the Lakers. Look, on one hand, I think there was always, and you and I discussed this at the start of the season, there was, at least at the very top in terms of the head coach, a lack of belief in Alex Caruso. Did not play the first game of the year. Didn't take off the sweats against the Clippers. But as the season developed, he became their go-to backup point guard and a guy who LeBron was comfortable closing with. On the other hand, when you get to the playoffs, a lot of it's about what have you done previously, and whether you want to go with the playoff Rondo or the fact that, people at Staples Center have seen him win a championship before. Granted, with the Boston Celtics, and that was, like a decade ago. Rondo has the reputation, and not having him does put more on Caruso. Not having Avery Bradley puts more on Caruso. It also gives them one less shot creator. Look, I think that they played Rondo too much. And the truth is, had Darren Collison signed with the team, they likely would have cut Rondo. But again, that's not factoring in that they didn't have Avery Bradley. Avery Bradley was playing the best basketball of his Laker career over the last month. That's why the team was playing better. Alex Caruso continues to develop. So now it changes their rotation, changes who they are. And though Rondo on his own getting hurt doesn't kill the team, I think Rondo combined with Avery Bradley not getting on the plane, this is not as good a Laker lineup as it was previously. Now, there's one last thing. I know I'm being long-winded. Kyle Kuzma was not having a good year.
Right.
And so the one thing we're not factoring in is if Kyle Kuzma used that time, as you pointed out, to figure it out, to get his game together, and he's anywhere near what they thought he could be, now all of a sudden the Lakers could be as good or better. But losing 2 point guards, granted, 2 backup point guards, one starter, one backup, and Avery Bradley and a Rondo, that hurts the Lakers heading into the bubble.
It's interesting. There are basketball players who I think are unbelievably gifted. I've been watching this league like you for a long time, but they're not necessarily winning basketball players. They're just gifted. I've been very critical of Westbrook, although I've said I'd pay to watch him play. He may be the best athlete in the league. He's insane. I mean, he's just ridiculously athletic. But the Bleacher Report ranked their top 100 basketball players in the NBA, and they had Westbrook 22. And I thought to myself, I don't know if I'd have him that low, but they are telling you it's a shooter's league. Dude can't shoot. Is it absurdly low, or has the league kind of figured out now, listen, athlete doesn't equal great basketball player or winning basketball player?
Well, there's a couple parts to it. I will tell you, and granted, I'm not in the bubble, the rumors in and out of the bubble about Houston mysteriously not having Luke Mbamute, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook, and no real explanation as to why they're not there yet. Leave a lot of people to wonder, why aren't they there yet? What does Houston know that the rest of us don't? Okay? That's the first thing. In regards to Westbrook, and is he ranked too low? If you go by stats, and you and I do not buy into the triple-double, but if you simply go by stats, he's the greatest player of the 21st century, right? We hadn't had since Oscar Robertson, a guy averaged triple-double. He does it 3 consecutive years. But a lot of that was because pace of play, the ball dominance in terms of his usage rating, and it's different with guards rebounding because you don't have a power forward anymore on the basketball floor. Sometimes you don't have a power forward or a center on the basketball floor anymore, and there's long carrying rebounds. It's not necessarily as great a statistic as traditional rebounding used to be. So I was never in he's a top 5 player or he should win the MVP even when he averaged a triple-double. I think 22 is probably a little bit low, but while he's crazy athletic, you're right, he doesn't shoot the ball well from 3, and he's not nearly the defensive player that his reputation would lead you to believe. Though he could have been a great defensive player, he just doesn't play defense all that much. He's not the same guy with 4 knee surgeries. He's now they're dynamic if he plays because they play without a center. He essentially is their one driver. Yeah. He and James Harden and everybody else spaces and shoots threes. And in a small sample size, it may work some. Do I think he's 22nd? Seems a little low, but I also think it's the world telling you that his inefficiency as a perimeter shooter is being noticed by a lot of people in the NBA.
So I thought it was something. I've watched a lot of legendary coaches get stubborn and rigid. The Woody Hayes, even Popovich feels a little stubborn sometimes, and it never ends well. Belichick has the approval of everything in New England. And it wasn't Cam's Instagram video this weekend. It was the fact that New England created a hype video for Cam, hasn't played a game, is in a quarterback battle, and it felt like to me New England saying, hey, you can have fun here. The world's changing. You can have some fun. We'll promote you a little. That's what it felt like to me. And I will say this. I've seen a lot of legends get rigid, and they go down the tube, right? I kind of felt like Belichick was acknowledging the world's changed. I got to lighten up a tad. Am I wrong on that?
So Belichick was editing IG video over the weekend? Is that what you're
I'm saying that Belichick has his hands on everything. That's why I don't buy all these. I don't know what happened with the video in Cincinnati. Belichick's touching everything.
You think he told them to shoot the Cincinnati sideline?
I think Belichick knew of it. Absolutely.
I don't. Look, do I agree? I don't think Belichick is as rigid as you would be led to believe, right? Like, they let Gronk be Gronk. Tom Brady, as much as he says he's having fun more, they did let him have the TB12. Did I think it was curious that a guy in a quarterback battle suddenly has a hype video when he hasn't taken a snap? We don't know how healthy his arm is? Sure. But I also think that, look, Cam is very Instagram popular. He's like the football version of an IG model. And I tend to think that this is the Patriots, whoever's running their social media department, kind of a tip of the cap to these videos, which are really cool and do get you excited. And frankly, the Patriots have been lame for a long time, and this makes them kind of cool. But do I think that Bill Belichick suddenly bent? He's like, sure, with the IG video. I don't ever think it even crossed his desk or crossed his mind, to be totally honest with you.
All right. He arrived in the NBA bubble yesterday. I'm so excited to talk to our buddy via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network, Martin Idina, NBA writer, USA Today. All right. Okay, let's just set the scene. You're sitting obviously in a hotel room. Our audience is watching. Mark, great to see you. Set the scene. Tell me what your life looks like now. What can you do? What can you not do? Where are you at?
Yeah, Colin, good to see you. I'm in Orlando at the Coronado Springs Hotel. That's on the campus of the ESPN Wild World of Sports Complex, where all 22 NBA teams that are participating are on site. Now, what I can do, what I can't do, I got in yesterday, and I'm going to be under quarantine for at least a week, and I'm being subject to daily testing. I got tested last night, but basically I have to get tested every single day. And as long as those tests continue to be negative, I'll be out of quarantine at the end of the day next Sunday. But, there's really not much I can do even when I'm out of quarantine. What I'll be able to do is go to practices, go to shoot-arounds, go to the arenas once the season starts July 30th. But this is not normal in today's world. So I won't be able to, meet NBA folks at the hotel for coffee or dinner or any of those things that were normal back in the day because of just what everything is going on with COVID.
Okay, so Westbrook officially has tested positive for COVID-19. Your reaction to that?
Well, it's interesting. I think on one hand, the NBA designed the resumed season this way to allow players that might test positive for COVID enough time to get back for the NBA season. So right now, Russell Westbrook still has a chance to come back for the Rockets once the season starts for them July 31st. But I think this is much different than it was when teams were starting to test players on June 23rd, because when those players tested positive, they still had time to go through the 2-week quarantine and be with their team when they went to Orlando starting last week. Here, Russell Westbrook has to wait until he's out of quarantine. Then when he gets to Orlando, we'll have to get tested again. And assuming it's 2 consecutive negative tests, he'll then be able to start practicing. But look, guess what? Russell Westbrook might have been taking care of his body really well, and he's one of the fastest point guards in the NBA, but he's going to be behind the 8 ball in terms of his conditioning and rustiness just as the season's about to start. But I guess if nothing else, at least for the Rockets, it's not one of these either season-long absences or something that will keep him out for any games at this point.
Well, it is the Laker roster. I felt at the very beginning of the season, the Clippers were building a roster to beat LeBron and the Lakers. Multiple wing players can guard LeBron, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Patrick Beverley for brief times. The Morris athletic wing, again, 8-12 minutes a night. They can take turns guarding LeBron. The Lakers are an old team with 2 stars. You cross your fingers on Kyle Kuzma playing well. Not a ton of depth. A little old for me. Some disparate parts. Now Rondo's out. And between Avery, Bradley, and Rondo, I look at that and I think, good God, the NBA Western Conference is nothing if not the guard league. And they've just lost 2 guards. It feels like they'll be fun. I'll be watching. I think the Rondo, Avery, Bradley combo deal out takes them out of the title window. What say you?
I'll say this. I don't want to diminish those absences because they're significant, but here's 2 things. As long as LeBron James and Anthony Davis are healthy and not significantly rusty, they're still a championship contender. I think number 2, this is going to be the theme for what all teams are going to be going through. And obviously you don't wish any bad news in terms of injury or health on anyone, but teams are bracing for the reality is that they're going to go through this right now. So there's no question. If you're looking at the LA teams, yeah, the Clippers have more depth. They're in a better position right now. But because of the messiness of the situation of, guys not going to be in the greatest shape since they haven't played since March, anticipated injuries, anticipated positive COVID tests, every team to some degree is going to be lacking depth. And I think for any team in the NBA, as long as their star players are healthy, they still have the fighter's chance. I think once you get to that point where those guys are casualties, that's when the picture starts changing.
What'd you make of LeBron deciding not to put anything in the back of his jersey? The NBA had some pre-approved messages, and LeBron's like, listen, it doesn't fit my mission. I don't think anybody doubts LeBron is, he's on the right side of stuff. But what was your takeaway?
Yeah, it was interesting. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer for any players that want to have a message, or in LeBron James' case, doesn't want to have a message. But I didn't understand why he wasn't in the loop on this, or, the suggestion that he was saying that, the players union didn't run different suggestions by him and other players. That part befuddles me. But as far as how players decide what they want to do, I think at the end of the day, whether you have a message on your jersey or not, the things that players are more concerned about is how do they take that next step into, providing tangible change. I think at this point in time, with what's going on in the world, everyone's aware of the issues that they're talking about. And now it's about, okay, what initiatives can they be a part of to address some of these reforms? In LeBron's case, he just formed a group to help increase voter turnout, fight voter suppression in the minority communities. So what other things can players, teams in the NBA do to help with some of those changes, or anything else regarding police reform or racial inequality in general?
By the way, Rondo just said the food's no good. Or who had said the food's no good? One of these NBA guys, and I'll be honest with you, I like hotel food. So when I go to a hotel, I turn the air conditioning down to about 66 degrees, and I order hummus and salmon, and that's what I eat for 7 days and watch movies and documentaries. So give me an update on the Disney food. What did you have to eat this morning?
Yeah, I had like an egg sandwich, a few pieces of a croissant. Look, like, I can confirm what Rondo says. The food's not great. I've been a seasoned traveler. I've been in much more luxurious hotels, have better meals. But at the end of the day, who cares? Like, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and I'll just take it that I'm at least able to travel again. I hadn't been traveling since February when the NBA was having All-Star Weekend in Chicago. So I'll take it. I mean, whatever inconvenience there are of the food not showing up on time, or it's not the meal that you'd like, it really doesn't matter.
Okay, that's a guy that's just handling it. Sometimes you just have to realize with COVID, we're all just like, life's not perfect. It's just not. I mean, I drove by an In-N-Out burger yesterday. It was 40 cars long. I'm like, oh, my God. Good seeing you, Mark. As always, thanks, bud.
Yeah, good seeing you guys, and be well, be safe.